coming in at fifth, everybody but myself voted for him, is the guy, very popular, rest in peace, this dude. He was Rowdy before Rowdy was even cool. Roddy Piper.
I guess I'll start. I'll let y'all kind of go into more detail.
That's
my second guy. How about that? But no, I mean, speaking of quick wit, Roddy Piper could cut the promo of anybody. And he had his own talk show on
Piper's Pit.
Yeah, on WWF at the time. Besides like Jericho and I guess The Miz, who has their own talk show on wrestling? That's how good he was.
Other wrestlers have had it, but not many can do it as well.
I looked up
for as long.
I looked up some Roddy Piper quotes because he was a quote machine, and I like this one because, and I knew Hunter would love it. During a feud with Hogan, he said, "I'm the reason Hulk Hogan lost his hair."
That's good. My favorite one is like, just when they think they have all the answers, I change the question.
Yeah, that's
a good one. Yeah.
Here's another one. You do not throw rocks at a man with a machine gun. He just every single feud he had. He was kind of the Muhammad Ali of WWE as far as the quotes go. Yeah. So I think he drew inspiration from.
Who had him the highest?
What it broke down to, Jacob had him at third, Max had him at fourth, Hunter had him at sixth, Bobby, you had him all the way at 10th. I didn't have him on the list. It's no hard 10. It's just I didn't watch much Roddy Piper stuff. Just compared to the others, I've just seen a lot more. He was still a great heel, and I'll give him, because even to this day, when Ronda Rousey always came in with the same Rowdy Ronda, because Roddy Piper was a big fan of hers, and she talked about it in an interview of how much of an honor it was when he said that she could use his stuff, and like how excited she was just because of how crazy of a fan. I will give him also, his show has lasted like even up to the end of, before he passed away, he was still doing his show on WWE. That's his little segment, which is rare. Like again,
Roddy Piper really pushed the envelope back in and said, "I'm not going to tell you people what he did. You have to look it up." His feud with Bad News Brown, he did some things which he could not get away with now. I think it was Bad News Brown. It might have been Jungle Dog.
No, it's bad. Yeah, it is. And then now it's if you watch the WrestleMania it's on Peacock, you won't see that they edited that match out.
Check it out. Yeah.
So if you had him the highest, what do you guys say?
Roddy Piper, one of the best heels, is the reason why he was chosen to face Hulk Hogan WrestleMania 1, him and Paul Orndorff, who sadly just recently passed away. And obviously Piper is no longer with us as well. But so he basically helped start the Rock and Roll connection. When he helped smashed the gold record over Captain Lou Albano with Cyndi Lauper there because he kicked Cyndi Lauper as well. That made the fans really, really hate him. And this feud with Mr. T, so that really helped. His promos are one of a kind. He wasn't politically correct. He never was, and that's probably one of the reasons why people, liked him, at least back in the day. It was just, you can say everything about Roddy Piper. He definitely was probably one of the best wrestling talkers of all time. He could definitely, like you said, he's one of a lot of great one-liners. Like you always say, he was Roddy before Roddy was cool. And obviously, as someone mentioned, the Piper's Pit with Snuka, hitting him with a coconut, that definitely helped get him even over as a heel. Even as a face, he was really good, but obviously everybody's memories of Piper are probably going to involve him as a heel.
If you listen to some Piper stories of him telling you his reactions of the crowd, I think he legit said a couple times he legit was almost killed by the crowd. That's how bad they hated this guy.
That's how effective he was as a heel. And again, he's one of the few wrestlers you do not want to get in a verbal sparring match with. He's going to probably win 9 out of 10 times. You don't challenge him.
He was one of the first cheaters, but not cheaters, but he would openly brag about cheating, and that just really irked people because he would win matches and cheating, and he would brag about cheating.
Didn't have many belts to his career, but I think it was also because, unfortunately, especially at that time, it was really more the faces got the belts, and really when a heel got it, it was just so that a face could get it. Like a heel would keep it for a month max, 2 months maybe, but that probably had he been wrestling more later 90s, he probably would have had a couple runs with his heel work.
I mean, I felt like Hogan has like, what, 4 years?
I may have for a
Yeah.
while.
One versus Ram was like 3 years.
Yeah, Piper did win the belt a couple of times in WCW, but I mean, back then it was
Yeah.
not the
It
same.
was like,
Poor Andre.
yeah, he was, yeah, I mean, in WWEF, he got the, Intercontinental title for a short time. He did a WrestleMania match with Bret Hart, and then he got that, when he was old, he got that short tag title reign with Ric Flair. But that's about pretty much all he got in the WWE. But I mean, he was one of the people that did not need a belt. You did not, there was no reason to put the belt on him back then because he didn't need the belt to elevate him. He was already at the top. So all you had to do to get a face over was have them feud with Piper, and if they beat him, then they would be over because everybody hated Piper back then.
Yeah, I'll give him because basically, out of all the legends we really remember, it's like you think about the Hogan, Macho Man, like they held the strap, but some of these heels that were so good, they didn't. The fact he never won it, but he's so revered. It's a big testament to him because even the Iron Sheik won it, but he didn't ever need it to elevate his character, which is pretty great to him, and his speaks to his work as a heel. Again, back in the '80s, it really was the good guy. The faces kept the belt, so
What number is Piper?
Go ahead, Jake. Go ahead, Bobby.
What number did we put Piper? 5?
Each 5.
It's all because Philip didn't have him on his list.
Yeah.
Again, I'm sorry, don't watch it. Which makes it, but the top guys. I mean, when you see who's over him, it's not like a disrespect.
So you gotta say the
Yeah,
top 4.
I mean, to quote Bobby from last time, it's a top 10, man. It's a top 10. Not everybody can get this. The same thing NBA Hall of Fame. We just let everybody in. There's lists. We gotta hold it back a little bit. All
I
right.
understand some people obviously we weren't gonna have someone like a Gorgeous George or Buddy Rogers because that's way old and we definitely didn't see it. But, I mean, you have the entirety of the WWE network to get yourself a coin of Piper, and you chose not to do it.
That's what I was about to say. Phil keeps saying he didn't see him he has a W. We have the W network.
I know. I'm sorry, because I watched the video, but he just was.
Excuse me, Peacock. You have Peacock now.
I just can't let anybody in.
So number 4 is we'll see them just.
Actually, it's a tie for the next two. So there's a tie for the next two, and again, when you see these other lists, I think we're going to agree that it's not the biggest disrespect Rowdy Piper was fit. All right, so third place is tied. Actually, these two. No, it's third place. It's a tie. They're both at. Roddy was at 21. These two are at 31. So even if I had voted for him, he still wouldn't have made it up anymore. These two are actually their careers have coincided with each other. There are two guys very well. One is still wrestling. The other, one's still he is still in the business. The other one makes appearances every now and then. It is none other than the duo from Evolution. Ric Flair and Triple H the Game.
Who had them the highest?
So we're gonna go through. I had Triple H the highest at 2. Hunter, you had him at 3. Max and Bobby had him at 5, and Jacob had him at 9. For Ric Flair, Bobby and Jacob both had him at 2. I had him at 4, and Hunter, you had him at 5. So that's kind of how it broke down. I'm going to go ahead and talk about, I'm going to touch Triple H first because I had him the highest. So Triple H, again, like I said, when I got back into wrestling was kind of like during the 2000.
Early 2000s.
Yeah, early 2000s. So he was going through his reign of terror. And big thing with Triple H, I think if you look throughout his career, he also was one that changed his gimmick because if you remember, he came in as the blue blood, kind of a blue blood aristocrat type deal when he first came in.
Turbo accent.
Yeah, which they changed and dropped. But once they let him, he even changed his finisher and everything. But once they let him into the Triple H now with the Game, all his stuff with DX, I feel, yes, Shawn Michaels, especially at the first part of it, was the face of that. But as Triple H ascended, and especially when Shawn Michaels got hurt and all, Triple H started taking over what that group, like being that group of being the face of two of the biggest, like we've said before, two of the biggest WWE stables and being the villain of that. I think when you talk about anything with his love for the business, anytime he gets on the mic, being that heel, doing those dirty things, him, and anytime he pulls out the equalizer or he pulls out his sledgehammer, I think that is an amazing part to him. I think he's great at selling it. My thing, I always remember Daniel Bryan versus Triple H, that was built. Again, the reason we pulled for Daniel, well, I was pulling for Triple H, but the reason people were pulling for Daniel Bryan in the Yes Movement was because Triple H was in the way of that, because he was that boss, and he was the one that was pushing against them. And Triple H, his work with him in that whole thing, I think even as Triple H was one of the people that has kind of ascended to, there was a point where, yes, he's a heel, but you still were rooting for him in certain stance. And he tried to get you not to, but you were still rooting for him at certain times just because how good of work he is. I think his love and dedication to the business, no matter what. I mean, yeah, I will criticize him, that whole Booker T thing. Yeah, Booker T should have won. Booker T definitely should have won. But I think if you go back to the 90s, even his backstage politics, the way his care for the business, I just think he's one of the greatest heels, especially now, even as he's translated from wrestler into kind of that authority figure, of being part of the authority and being backstage in the corporate world. He's always going to give you some great heel work, no matter what. So that's why I'm a big fan of his. I'll let somebody else go on Triple H.
I mean, you said you nailed on the head, Phil. During his reign of terror, I mean, people absolutely despised Triple H. They wanted him to lose. They kept winning, and then they some backstage politics, and that's why he won. But anyway, people hated him, wanted him to lose, and I know he was a face, but he was always better as a heel. Whether that was DX, Evolution. I mean, he's just better as a heel.
Honestly, he was part of that memorable 5-man tag match that we watched as a kid, where it was DX versus The Rock, Stone Cold, Kane, Undertaker, and who am I saying?
Shane.
I remember we were watching, we were pulling so hard for DX to lose. We were really going to lose, and they still ended up winning. We went to somebody. He should not be named.
Well, even before, I like Triple H's heel work even before the Reign of Terror with his McMahon Helmsley era, where he was aligned with Stephanie, and then also Vince, of course. But his work during that time, I mean, at that time he air quotes retired Cactus Jack. His heel work during that feud. I mean, Mick Foley, if no one knows, he is a huge fan favorite even to this day. Every time he comes, people love to cheer him. So when he retired him, nobody was happy about that. And he did great feuds with Stone Cold, The Rock, Undertaker, and most of the time he feuded with these guys. Shawn Michaels, it was a heel, because he's a fine babyface when he had a good opponent, but his heel work and his promo work definitely is much better as a heel. The way he just was. He's going to tell you he's going to tell you how he's going to beat you, and then he goes and does it exactly how he says.
If you need your champion to face a heel in the late 90s, early 2000s, Triple H was that heel they were going to face.
Oh yeah. Jacob, you got anything about Triple H?
So he really established himself as a heel. So what really made people hate him was when he interrupted he married Stephanie McMahon and basically, drugged her up and married her instead of Tess, because people liked Tess back then, and they got really mad at Triple H would take her like that, and so that really helped get him over as a heel. And then he would basically cheat any way he could to win, and again aligning himself with Vince McMahon back then. Anybody would hate anybody associated with Vince McMahon. Being a part of DX certainly helped. And I mean, he used a lot of tactics that the other person he tied with Ric Flair would do. And I mean, there's a reason why Ric Flair is in Evolution. So he was basically part of two of the best WWE factions in Evolution and DX.
I mean, technically, you could also say that Helmsley McMahon thing was like another one that was really.
Yeah. The Corporation Ultimate Man faction. So basically, I mean, a lot of the best heel groups. The Authority was okay for the most part. It wasn't the best, but that's definitely one of Triple H's weaker ones. But everybody generally disliked Triple H during the Reign of Terror. They disliked him during the Attitude Era as well, but definitely during the Reign of Terror because he beat a lot of the WCW favorites: Scott Steiner, Booker T, Kevin Nash. And then that helped really get him over. We already said that Booker T should have won, even if it was a short reign, because ultimately what they did was have Goldberg beat Triple H, but you still could have had Booker T lose the belt in like a month or two, and then Triple H could have dropped it to Goldberg. But oh well. But again, he retired the Ultimate Babyface man, Mick Foley, and so that would get anybody to dislike it, or that would make the crowd dislike anyone who would make Mick Foley not be on TV anymore, or at least in a wrestling capacity, because he came back later as the commissioner.
And I'm saying, Jacob, since you have Ric Flair the highest tie with me, I'll let you start. You've seen more of his stuff than I have.
Yeah, so Ric Flair I had him second, I believe, him and the Horseman. But so he basically Ric Flair, his whole gimmick was being flamboyant and flaunting his wealth, and people hate people who flaunt their wealth. At least most people do. And then his famous feuds was he would rail on the common man like Dusty Rhodes. So he would flaunt his wealth as champion, make fun of the common man as if he's better than you, and that would easily get the crowd to hate him. And then his promos, again flaunting his wealth, talking about his Rolexes and his shoes, and then constantly stabbing Sting in the back like all Sting's tag team partners end up doing.
Yeah, naturally.
Yeah, no, it's part of life.
Also, his promos during like the 70s, 80s, still quotable to this day.
And he was one of the ones that popularized all the dirty tactics, like the eye poke. I mean, he didn't create them, but he definitely helped popularize them. He would always find a way to escape with the title. So he would either get himself counted out, DQ'd, cheat to win. So just the fact that he would do all that to keep the belt for as long as he did when he was in NWA, WCW really made crowds dislike him.
I was supposed to say, like, him being the dirtiest player in the game, and like I said, everybody knows that he'll do anything to win. His promo work, he'll just pretty much just flaunt his wealth and pretty much make you feel little and insignificant. And I gotta give him some love. He's from North Carolina.
Yep.
Sure.
And I mean, I said his hair back in the day, that hair, beautiful.
Those locks.
Even in the WWF, he was a great heel. His feud with the Macho Man over Miss Elizabeth, definitely an underrated one. And then, obviously, his promos are top tier. You could do a top 10 list of promos, and they would probably all be, or at least half of them would be Ric Flair promos.
Was anybody more energized doing a promo? Like all his old ones, he was like always screaming. Like, I mean, the man was always like just going at it,
I was gonna stroke out.
Yeah.
Only man who keeps the energy is Macho Man.
He would make himself bleed like that. There's one in the mid 2000s when he was feuding with Mick Foley. He had staples in his head, and he took the staples out mid promo.
Yeah, he's crazy.
Yeah, but he does what he has to do to sell the match. I mean, he's just money.
Mm-hmm.
He was money. He flaunted his money. There will never be
money,
another Ric Flair.
He's going to command. If you haven't seen his promo work, definitely. If you want to see something that's just outright hilarious, him and Jay Lethal. That is one of the funniest. Oh, this ride, longest line. But oh my gosh, yeah, and I mean everybody knows the line. Everybody knows his famous line that we've seen copied so many times. I think, like Jacob said, he was one of the first to kind of just win at all costs. And, what else can you really say about him? Even the stuff his daughter's done is kind of in that same similar to that, and I think he just put this prototype down for kind of that rich, I'm better than you, and that's why because even though people hated him, people loved them some Ric Flair. Like, and I think as a heel, when he gets to that point of like, yes, everybody hates you, but they still love you and admire you.
He said you're gonna learn to love it. So.
Because if you see also his NWA when they used to do the, there's a lot of stuff when he was just there with the crowd, like you'd see all those girls. I mean, women love Ric Flair.
Women love them.
Oh yeah, Ric Flair.
He did love the women, but he'd tell you the women loved him too. He'd say, your girl loves me too.
Yeah.
He's one of those where all the men hated him.
He would stare someone in the crowd and say, your girl's gonna come home with me.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious who we have above. I know I got a good idea.
I think I
see
know
the
who
order. I
it
want
is.
to see the order.
Okay, so we're gonna go to number 2 with 40 points.
Come on, baby.
So this man was very well known. He did one of the craziest things in wrestling history, turning from one of the greatest faces of all time to one of the heels when he came out on WCW, forming the greatest faction known to this day, NWO. It is Hulkamania, or as well known as Hollywood Hulk Hogan. Still known, obviously, surprise to nobody, Hunter had a number 1. Typical. Hunter had a number 1, which we all knew. If you all don't know by now, Hunter is like the
biggest Hulk fan.
He's a Hulk fan here. Hunter had 1. Number 2, Max had him at number 2. Bobby and myself had him at 3. And surprise, surprise, Jacob had him at 6. God forbid Jacob ever gives Hulk Hogan any credit.
I like Hulk Hogan, but he sucks.
Let me start. I won't be up. I let Hunter do the majority of talking because he's the Hulkamaniac right here. But Hollywood Hogan, one thing I like about him, even though with his babyface run, his matches weren't the best, but I love his crowd work as Hollywood Hogan. I thought was some of the best heel work you'll see. The match itself may not be great, but you see his matches with Goldberg and Sting at those times. He was working the crowd the whole time. He'll go out there, he tries to talk a Granny out there, and Granny gives him the bird. But the way he would have the crowd in the palm of his hand. Every little thing he did to make the crowd boo him and boo him even harder. He would be wrestling, doing standard wrestling match. He would just randomly go out the ring, give the fans a little salute, and just have them just eating in the palm of his hands.
I would say NWO wouldn't be what it is now if it wasn't for Hulk Hogan.
Well, no, because Kevin Nash and Scott Hall, where they were big names, but they weren't nowhere near the star power of
I
Hulk
think
Hogan.
originally,
And spoiler alert, they're not on this list. So I'm just gonna say, top 10 best heels of all time. Nobody puts them on their list. They're great.
I did have Razor in my top
Oh
10.
yeah.
and Jay, correct me if I'm wrong, was Sting the original choice and Hulk Hogan
Yeah.
was decided?
That's a story.
Yep.
Mine didn't
Sting-
sing that good.
Sting didn't want to be a heel.
And I'm gonna be honest, I love Sting. He's one of my favorites, but it would not have worked as well if Sting was the leader.
No.
Will we then get Hulk Hogan being Sting?
All right.
Because I like to see that.
All right, Hunter. We know you're chomping at the bit. Go ahead.
I mean, you touched on it, Phil. I mean, the biggest moment in wrestling history is when this man, the biggest face in wrestling history, has the gall to turn heel. I mean, who would have thought? I mean, I know Hulk Hogan was going stale and he had to do this to turn his career around, but who would have thought Hulk Hogan, Hulkamania, would turn heel on people? I mean, it's the biggest moment in history. And it's the fact, I mean, to me, he's by far the coolest heel in history. I mean, just his look, money. I mean,
I'd say Flair, but yeah.
I will say that the facial he had, going away from the mustache, having the dark beard with the mustache.
I mean,
And the guitar.
the Black Lightning pants, him playing guitar with the belt,
And spray painting.
and the spray painting NWO on people's backs. I mean, total heel moves. And then that's, he touched up on it, but his crowd work as a heel is the best in wrestling history. I mean, there's no debate.
It's debate, but
Well, I mean, I guess you can debate on the number one guy on this list, so we all know who it is. But
And the thing about Hogan when he was heel, obviously the biggest face became the biggest heel, but he was so arrogant, but the second like a face would come up to confront him, he would always hide behind other NWO members. So he would talk all this smack, and then when someone comes to confront him, he would be coward.
That's a smart
Yeah.
move.
Yeah, he's like a chihuahua, you know?
Yeah, he did. Well, he made you want because he always got away with it, never got his come up, and so people were like, I need to see this guy get beat. So he made the money matches. He made them worth it because he would never get beat on Nitro that often. So you wanted to see him, Daniel Goldberg, take him down. He's like, this dude. If someone's got to beat this guy, I'm tired of seeing him run away.
And then he brought the Hollywood persona to WWE, had that match with The Rock, but somehow the fans decided, you know what, let's make Hogan the good guy, The Rock the bad guy.
Well, the funny thing with that, The Rock, or leading up to the Rock match, The Rock did, or Hulk Hogan did so many things to The Rock. He ran him over in an ambulance with a truck, but yet the crowd was like, "That's okay." He tried to kill The Rock. We'll still cheer him.
Yeah.
Well, I like how they in that match they just called an audible, like him and The Rock just called an audible, like they just kind of went with it, like okay, Hulk Hogan's like, well, you know, screw it, I'm the face in this one.
Yeah, both confirmed the story. They did switch the matchups. That is proven. Both of them confirmed that story.
I will give them to this. Is a big thing you got to remember. If it's not for Hulk Hogan or him turning Hollywood Hogan, WWE is not what it is now. Because I always have felt because WCW got so big, WWE had to step up its game and. Huh?
We went to Boston.
Yeah, we were, and that was the thing. Like once you had Hollywood and NWO going, because that's when WCW kept running. Vince McMahon and them had to realize, okay, we gotta step up our game, and I kind of like that rivalry. Hence why, hopefully, it keeps. It was so. I'm gonna say not just his heel, but it was so good for the business, and especially that time, him turning heel. Because it's like if John Cena back in like 2010. Or what was it, 2012 they wanted to turn him heel? If he turned heel, which supposedly he did, Vince McMahon didn't because of his Make-A-Wish Foundation, the money merchandising, which is like John Cena, according to records, it says he wanted to, but like, yeah, it's like if you turn John Cena heel at that moment, oh my god, and brought back the Doctor of Thugonomics and that, I would have been, which they should have brought back the
Well,
Doctor of
it's
Thugonomics.
what they finally have done. Finally, with Roman Reigns, you know? And so that's why that's such a
And also, and there is such a big reference. They still reference like the Bullet Club does the Too Sweet thing.
Oh, and everyone wants to copy.
Yeah, everybody copies it, but they'll never be as.
Well, and then which one? Who was the one that copies the guitar and the championship belt? Which one of them does?
Kyle O'Reilly.
Oh yeah, I mean it's like come on, it's all these people mimicking, and they'll never be an ounce of cool like Hulk Hogan.
And NWO was so big at the point they were mainstream. Because of Hogan, you had Dennis Rodman coming in, Karl Malone.
And I'm pretty sure there was a video on NWO versus WCW.
Wasn't that the whole? Wasn't there a video game?
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
And how many other factions get a game where they are the main?
Yeah, it's not like it was DX versus WWF.
True.
You know?
Which, if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't have gotten DX either. I mean, DX probably never happens, which, again, when you talk about how great that was for WWE, like, that whole thing does not happen without him.
What WCW had the attitude, and WWE saw, oh, we need to do that instead of these cartoon characters. We got to switch up. That's why DX came in, Stone Cold.
That's why number one is.
But then they got
So all that circles back to Hulk Hogan.
So, again, well done, because, again, I don't think a lot of wrestlers would have wanted to do that.
None at his status.
Because how huge he was, especially in the 80s, like, they would have just either retired or just kept going with their gimmick. Sting, thank you for not accepting. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, unfortunately, you're dealing with all that stuff, but,
I think it worked out. Sting did well.
That catapulted Sting, catapulted Goldberg, catapulted.
Oh, yeah.
It's funny how life works, you know.
It was good. It was good timing because Hulk Hogan, for a good bit at that point, had grown stale with some people. So the timing was great, and he definitely showed that he could be a great face and heel. Again, like you said, NWO reached like pop culture status. A lot of people. There was even an interview within the past week with Kevin Durant where they asked him if he felt like he was the NWO up in Brooklyn. So that was it. He said he didn't feel like it because he didn't feel like they should all be hated, but he just the fact that the question was asked was pretty interesting. After all this time.
Yeah, 20-something years later.
Everybody say that?
Oh no, I was gonna say, just to finish that up, I was saying, even if she was a plant or not, he got a granny to flip him off, so.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty good. Not that she should, but yeah. So,
Granny.
No, so I think we all know number one.
well, we're gonna do honorable mentions first.
Yes.
We got a couple. I'm gonna talk about one, even though
Please.
this person got 7 points. Myself, Max, and Hunter all voted
I
for
did
this
not
person. Max voted him at 8th. Hunter and I voted him at 9th. It is none other than the wrestling god,
Yes, I've been waiting for this.
JBL. I enjoy JBL because that was like when I got back into wrestling, was when he made that turnover from Bradshaw into JBL, the Money Mogul, when he went away from him and Farouk and the APA and became his own thing. He was that gimmick again, like that rich, annoying guy who looked down on society because at that time in life, actually, he made it big on the stock market and was doing stuff like, I think it was Fox News.
Yeah.
Especially, anybody knows me, my second favorite wrestler of all time is John Cena. Him and John Cena versus Cena, again, I feel Cena works because he was going against JBL, and JBL had 9 months with the title, and it was one of the longest reigns. And over, he beat Booker T, he beat Undertaker, Big Show, like all your favorites. He kept beating them, and it was annoying. And finally, John Cena. The reason when John Cena was ascended, the reason it was so good in that WrestleMania moment was because you hated JBL so much. Even him and everything like he stood for was just annoying. Him and Eddie Guerrero when he won the title, I remember he talked about, there was a line he said, pretty racist, but it was given to him by Eddie Guerrero. Eddie Guerrero was like, you should say this, and he was like, eh! And you talk about earlier with Roddy Piper, he says this line in Texas, and the authorities even said, yeah, you might not want to come back to El Paso because we can't guarantee your safety anymore. The bull rope match, and even JBL got the idea. If you ever talk to him, he had an interview when he got inducted in the WWE Hall of Fame where he talked about, he didn't sell his merchandise to fans because he wanted to be hated. He didn't want fans to cheer him. He's like, if fans were cheering me, I wasn't doing my job right. I wanted to make sure they absolutely hated me. And he really pushed it to you guys. All right, I'm gonna lie.
Well, it's just, I mean, you mentioned like, people hated it when he won, but my favorite thing about his heel run was how he won. He did all of the most cowardly things you can imagine and to win.
And he's a big guy.
Yeah, I mean, he's a big dude, but he would play such a little scaredy cat, and then he would find ways to win by cheating. And I mean, and that's what made his heel run work because people hated that.
Oh yeah. Also, I love his finisher.
Well, yeah, the clothesline from hell is such a really good finisher.
But one reason his heel run had a big impact is he spent most of his WWE career as a mid-carder. If you don't know what that is, it's kind of the guy, if you went to a wrestling show, you would see near the beginning of the show because he wasn't, he's not who you pay to see. But then he had a late career turnaround, one of the biggest career turnarounds I think you'll see for someone who really wasn't a major name and then made himself one later on. But it was a big impact because he's this guy, and then he beat Eddie for the title, right?
Yeah.
And the things he said, the things he did to Eddie and said about Eddie really you probably won't get away with it these days, but it really made you want to see him lose. And for 9 months, you didn't see him lose often because he would get his group. He had a group with Lander Jordan and other people, and they would always find a way to cheat to win, or he would run away and get disqualified or counted out. And then you just didn't see him lose often for 9 long months, and then eventually John Cena, who eventually became the probably biggest babyface since Austin or Hogan, came in, and without JBL being that big of a heel, you probably don't get John Cena.
So, and yeah, there weren't even leading up to it. He got John Cena arrested. as well as had a restraining order against Cena. It was pretty good stuff.
It also
another-
caused him to lose the United States title. But no,
yeah.
JBL, he kind of did a similar thing to Ric Flair. He was like, he was better than you because he had all this money, and you didn't. So that was it was great. It's definitely one of the better heel runs of that era for sure. Like the only one probably Edge, but everybody wanted to see him lose, and it's really, really interesting how he turned from pretty much always a tag team wrestler into a main eventer. Like the last time they tried that was probably like Jinder Mahal, but that didn't work out nearly as well.
you didn't like the Maharaja?
He didn't make the rules already.
I didn't mind it as much as other people did.
Yeah,
but,
I was not a fan. I was not a
I-
fan.
I give him credit doing something different.
It was interesting. You
Yeah,
tried.
it was
I'll give it.
yeah, it was something new. I'd rather see that than another Randy Orton title run. So especially a face Randy Orton title run. Well, if it was heel Randy Orton, but it was face Randy Orton at the time. So but anyway.
Who else we got?
Okay, so another honorable mention. This guy actually missed out by 2 points. Max had him at 10. Bobby had him at 7. Hunter had him at 8. It is the Beast Incarnate, Brock Lesnar.
Look, to me, he's just the most intimidating heel of all time.
Yeah.
You look at him, it's just pure intimidation. Don't worry about promos. He can do a good UFC style promo, but a lot of crowd don't buy it. Just intimidation.
Yeah, I don't think I can spend too much time over him because I gushed over him on the last show. But I mean, Brock Lesnar only works as a heel. His babyface, when you try to make him a babyface, it didn't really work. The way he
looks like
looks,
a heel.
his size,
Yeah.
he's a bad guy.
He's an in-game boss.
For one, in real life, he doesn't like people, so it's best for him to be a heel anyway because he wants you to be him because he doesn't want you to like him. So it works better for him. It's more he naturally is.
Just, he's like one of the most believable heels. You see him?
Yeah, I mean, and you get someone like, I know he fought Daniel Bryan, beat him, but like if Daniel Bryan beats Brock Lesnar, then he's already a big name, but then he's going to be counterposed to like a freaking all-star.
Another guy, Hunter, you were the only person. Oh, go.
Oh no, I was saying Brock Lesnar. He's like a different kind of heel than what you see a lot of times nowadays. You see like the cowardly heel, or they'll cheat to win or whatever. Brock Lesnar is a bully, and he will dominate you. So you don't see that much in heels nowadays.
All right, I'm gonna hit 2 more. Hunter, you're the only one who voted for this person. Razor Ramon.
I'll just be quick about it, but I've always, I didn't watch wrestling when Razor was around, but in retrospect, watching it, I just really like that whole gimmick. I know it's a poor imitation of Tony Montana, but it's just so good. His vignettes and promos and matches to me were all top tier heel stuff. Him talking about chicas, it's just really good.
All right. Another one. Jacob, you're the only person that voted for this person. They also got 7 points. Ted DiBiase.
Yeah, I wanted to include him on there, but go ahead.
Just to make the cut.
And I'm kind of surprised that I'm definitely surprised I'm the only one that put him on the list. I don't know what y'all were thinking, but
Competitive list, man.
But before you get into it, may I say he has the best cackle.
Best laugh.
That's laugh all time.
$1 million man.
I mean, he was just extremely arrogant. Again, another heel that was better than you because he had money. But one thing he did that kind of separated himself was, since he couldn't win the WWE title, he was like, well, forget that. I'll just create my own title. So he created the $1 Million Championship.
He's also a very nice guy. After he beat you, he still stuffed money in your mouth.
Yep.
If you're gonna beat me, at least give me some money.
I'll take that
with some
one.
money.
And even the moment where he bought the WWE title from Andre the Giant, that was like something kind of creative of like, okay, I can't win it. I'll buy it from somebody.
He did have a heel finisher that Sleep will hold.
Mm-hmm. Last person we'll talk about real quick before we go to our number 1 is another person who kind of ascended later in their career. Jacob and I are the only ones who voted for him. Jacob, and it is the Rated R superstar, Edge.
Great heel.
That's it. That's
That's it. No words necessary. Nah, he was, people really disliked him with the whole. What really catapulted him was obviously the Matt Hardy feud with him and Lita. Edge wouldn't be where he got to without that. Raider Superstar, great gimmick, and then first person to cash in Money in the Bank, and he beat John Cena, who was really popular at the time. I mean, people cheered for Edge to win too, because Cena's title reign at that time was pretty long. But
No, it was in Canada. It was in Canada. They also cheered for him because he later cost Cena the title.
And Canada usually, I think Canada usually cheers for the heels more too.
Yeah, well, he's from
No, it's
Canada.
also funny though, usually.
Yeah, he's from the area, and I think for me, like when you guys talk about a moment where you're upset, I mean, I knew when Cena faced RVD, I knew Cena was going to lose. But the fact Edge was the one who speared him, and that's why he lost, I hated him even more just because of that. I was like, I was very upset at that moment.
I just have one words I want to say that I probably my vote for it later on is the Miz. He doesn't get enough credit. He's like one of the best heels of this generation.
We're gonna talk about probably favorite wrestlers currently sometime.
Well, I was gonna say,
we're gonna go in.
I would be remiss if Miz had the great heel work of the Miz.
No, I'm sure we all are. We're all wondering who number one is.
All right, so after all that, we're going down with 49 points. He was,
Oh, yeah, sorry.
49 points. This guy's 49 points. Just like since, let me say something. Triple H, Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan, and this person are Triple H. Sorry, Triple H, Hulk Hogan, and this person are the only ones that every single one of us voted for. Apparently, Matt's gonna vote for Ric Flair.
Right.
Wow.
I was surprised you didn't mention that.
I did catch earlier. I did, but this guy got all the votes. I mean, I think there's only one name left. Obviously, everybody but Hunter voted him number one. Hunter voted him number two. It is none other. It is only fitting that the best heel is the boss, Vincent Kennedy McMahon. I mean, I'll let somebody else
This
start with
theme
this.
song pretty much stayed in from the start. You have no chance.
No chance.
Before we get into this, man, I gotta say I'm pretty good at this wrestling list so far. My number one has been number one for both these.
Oh yes, same.
Alright.
I'm going to tell you, I mentioned this. This is all about Vince McMahon. This is not about your guy, because, without this guy, your guy would be nothing.
Well, he was pretty popular before he started.
Yeah, but Vince McMahon catapulted Stone Cold to the stratosphere, because you had to have a foil. The Rock was a great foil, but there's no bigger foil than your boss.
Well, yeah, as most people say about Vince McMahon is that his feud with Stone Cold was people projecting themselves. You don't get to punch your boss in real life, but seeing Stone Cold punch his boss in real life gave some sort of satisfaction to people at home.
And I'm going to be honest, I did not think he was that ripped under that jacket. And then when he started wrestling, the muscles on this man.
I mean, he looks back. I mean, just imagine him in AEW now. He'd be the biggest guy in the league.
Like I said, and his promo work, he just really made you hate him.
Well, he was a smug owner. He owned the company, obviously, and he just smug. He said, "I own the company. I'm going to run the company how I want it." Stone Cold, you were not going to be my champion because you were not a corporate image champion. I don't care what you fans think. My company, my way.
Yep. I think he took that. He really took the moniker of that horrible boss and just really pushed it. And sometimes the question is, what part's Vince, what part's him acting? I don't know.
He was willing to push it hard.
Oh, and he didn't care. The one thing I will give him respect is, as a boss, how many, he's taken stunners, rock bottoms, been hit with chair shots, tombstone, every finisher in the book by all these top guys, and been bloodied up, but all he cares about is the bottom line.
And then talk about one of his biggest heel moves, that he would literally have his employees kiss his bare ass.
Hunter said Vince like to push an envelope. He had a feud with his own daughter, and he fought God. So.
Oh my God.
He did.
And he had a feud with his son.
he fought God, he beat God.
There was a very famous backstage segment, not backstage, they did a segment, and he went to a church, and he drank some holy water, spit it out like Triple H.
Yeah.
Because he never went to church, that's what he did in his gimmick, he never went to church, he had no idea that it was holy water.
And he was. It does not matter to him. He was, and he's willing to let other people, like, he wants you to go there for selling tickets. Hence why he was fine when Paul Heyman said that thing about his father, who at that time was passed away. I mean, every time he steps on, even his walk, like the walk he does, just going out there, like, you know something's going to happen every time Vince steps on.
It's iconic. There's a reason Conor McGregor copied it.
Yeah.
But the thing about Vince McMahon is what started it all pretty much was Montreal Screwjob, and he could have been just a general, like a generic boss and be like, oh, I'm sorry these things happen. But he did a video, and he said he didn't screw Bret. Bret screwed Bret, and that made everybody hate him because everybody liked Bret Hart at the time, and they were mad about the circumstances that led to him going to WCW. And so that definitely set him on top. And then the whole, he wanted a corporate champion, and he tried to get Stone Cold to wear a suit and tie and be professional, and obviously that wasn't Stone Cold, so Vince ate a stunner for it. Definitely one of the most iconic moments was him stunning Vince for the first time.
What a sell job that Vince did.
Yeah.
And like I said, if you disobey him, you get that iconic catchphrase, you're fired.
Donald Trump stole it.
Yeah. So
And then Vince copied the screw job again the very next year with Rock and Mankind. So that really got people to hate him because he did the same thing again.
So we think of wrestling history, he's probably the first heel we think of.
Oh yeah, and when you're attached to Vince, you're right then, bam, you're the heel. Like, if you attach yourself to him, you are the heel. Because even you think about WrestleMania 17 when Stone Cold and Vince teamed up, the end of Attitude Era. I mean, that was like, oh my gosh, huge moment. I was like, no, you're the heel now.
And so many times and so many companies have tried to copy the Vince McMahon heel boss gimmick, and they've failed every single time.
Oh yeah, it doesn't work. Yeah, it just doesn't hit, and I don't know how you can make a bigger heel than Vince, honestly, because that man will get you to hate him. And for a boss, even though he started off as an announcer, his mic skills are really good. Like, he's very good. Like, he knows his in-ring is like, it's good enough. He's gonna take a bunch of bumps. That's really what he does. But his mic skills are good to let you just go on, and he's created something very good. All right, I think we've hit it all with Vince McMahon. Just to let you all know, I'm going to go through the top 10 list again. Number 10 was HBK and The Rock. Number 8 was Paul Heyman. Number 7 was Randy Orton. Number 6 was Bobby the Brain. Number 5 was Roddy Piper. Number 3, tied to number 3, was Ric Flair and Triple H. Number 2 was Hulk Hogan. And number 1 was Vince McMahon. Do you agree with our list? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Go ahead and put your comments down below. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. And join us next time for when we talk about our next big podcast. Again, my name is Phil. You can call me Legacy. You can follow me at wisdom_legacy on Twitter.
I'm Bobby. You go to Bobby D3. I don't have social media at the moment.
And I'm Max. If you want to follow me on Twitter, it's Max_Derringer.
And I'm Hunter a Mountain, and I really don't pay attention to Twitter and all that stuff, so.
Not yet.
Alright, I'm Ian Catan, and you can follow me on my YouTube, Ian and Lesbian. Be 17 plus. Be safe.
That's why I like to do last every single time. He knows it.
That's the first time I've heard that.
And lastly, Vitamin J, you can follow me. I have recently started streaming again on Twitch. I will play Call of Duty. I started getting into Phasmophobia and Dead by Daylight, so those are probably the main ones I'm streaming. You can also follow me on Twitter at VitaminJ91.
And to confirm, it's Vitamin J with no underscore.
No underscore, just Vitamin J. There are many other ones, but I am the original Vitamin J.
All right. Again, feel free to tell us who you think we missed, who you think we should have put on, maybe why. Go ahead and on the comments below, maybe suggest a top 10 list or something you'd like to hear us discuss. Again, thank you for tuning in to Core Discussions. We will see you next time, and Ian, cue that outro music.
Am I everything you need? You better rock your body.
Yeah, I do that during wrestling. So I know what to talk about. So I do that.
You
She's
should have
fun.
made her a yandere.
She might be. She might be.
Stick with me and get out of this alive, or stay with the whore and say goodnight. Better hurry.